Chinese tourism in Vietnam is exploding, and so are its tempers. From Da Nang to Saigon, one video at a time, and the locals are asking the question that no one in the industry wants to ask. Is it still worth it? I'm not talking about the usual speaking too loudly on the bus stuff. I mean sovereignty t-shirts at the airport, Chinese flag-waving rallies on Vietnamese soil, unlicensed tour guides that say Vietnam used to be a part of China. Also, buffet chaos, street brawls, and temple fights that end up on TikTok before noon. It is messy, it is public, and is pushing Vietnam to the breaking point. Is Vietnam about to tell China's backpack brigade to pack up and go home? Or the strength of the mighty dollar will keep the doors wide open? Stick around as we are going to unpack the chaos, the cash, and the CCP's sneaky hand in all of this. By the end, you see why this is not just about bad behavior, but a geopolitical powder keg ready to blow. So let's get started. Vietnam has never been more popular with mainland Chinese tourists. In 2024 alone, Vietnam welcomed 3.74 million travelers from China. That is a 44% increase from 2023. And 2025 didn't stop there. Just in the first 9 months of the year, Vietnam welcomed nearly 3.9 million visitors, reaffirming that Vietnam is China's #1 tourist destination. That's not a wave. It's a tidal current running to every beach town and city in the country. We're talking about busloads of group tours clogging the streets, hotels in the beach towns being fully booked, and a tourism economy ballooning to contribute over billions of dollars into the Vietnam GDP. Sounds like a win-win situation, right? Cash flowing, jobs created, and everybody is happy. But hold on, because behind that smiling selfie lurks a darker side, one where the CCP controls like a puppet master at a bad marionette show. And that's where the trouble starts brewing. My name is Ken Yung, international business immigration attorney with over 16 years of experience helping individuals and companies live, invest, and work all over the world, especially here in Vietnam. And let me tell you, Vietnam hospitality is great. They love hosting people. It is in their nature. But love shouldn't mean that you accept bad behavior. It would be sad to see Vietnam's hospitality change for the worse because of bad behavior and geopolitical engineering. You see, the CCP does not send their tourists abroad just for fun or fortune. Oh no, they weaponize them. Their massive amount of travelers every year amount to over 120 million overseas trips per year, contributing over $260 billion to that economy. They use it as a geopolitical stick against those who do not follow the rules. Because nothing says diplomacy like starving a tiny island's economy over a flag. Take Palau, that tiny paradise island that recognized Taiwan. Beijing slapped it with a de facto travel ban by denying their approved destination status, which allows Chinese companies to book tours. Result? Tourist numbers gutting half of Palau's GDP. Or look at the Philippines, where China issued safety warnings over ship clashes in the South China Sea disputes, tanking tourism in key spots. Even Taiwan felt the squeeze when they elected a leader that called it a country in 2016. Mainland visitors to Taiwan dropped by 36% in the first 7 months of that year due to the pressures from the CCP on agencies. And South Korea, after deploying the THAAD missile system in 2017, tourism vanished overnight, costing them $15 billion and over 400,000 jobs. The CCP's playbook is clear. Play nice and you get the cash. Cross the line and your beach is empty. So, with Vietnam being increasingly vocal about the South China Sea disputes, will China use their tourism army to keep Vietnam at bay? Imagine if Vietnam kept on speaking loudly about these disputed reefs. Poof! Empty beaches. The evidence is piling up like discarded chopsticks, and it's leading straight to the bad behavior that the locals are seeing red, just like an annual meeting of the Communist Party. Now let's zoom into Vietnam itself, where the Chinese antics are pushing patience to the breaking point. Picture this: a notorious group of Chinese tourists wore t-shirts with a 9-dash line. Officers picked it up, moved in quickly, and forced them to take off all the shirts. However, not before the photos erupted online like a sovereignty scandal. Vietnamese netizens raged and called this an insult on home turf. Not quite the vacation vibe that you were looking for. Then there's the flag-waving spectacle in Nha Trang. Hundreds of tourists caught in a video waving the PRC flags and belting songs in the marina. To them, it may look like just a fun rally, but to the Vietnamese, it looks like a territorial taunt. The optics ignite fury, triggering fines for the organizers and a wave of online backlash. Again, combustible stuff. Or take the unlicensed guides spinning history. Clip surface of Chinese guides without permits telling their tour groups Vietnam used to be a part of China. That's definitely not tour facts. That is gasoline on centuries of bad blood. Local authorities come in to crack down, but the damage goes viral before the ink even dries on the official statement. Street chaos amps it up too. A restaurant bill disputes that leads to a brawl on Jiangfu Street in Nha Trang, with chairs flying everywhere and phones flashing like if it was a John Wick movie. Weeks later, a temple scuffle at Long Sung Pagoda over a cash change dispute turns into a physical brawl at a sacred grounds. Once it hits social media, it turns from tourist misbehavior to national disrespect. And the everyday slights pile on. Loud groups bulldozing queues, littering beaches like confetti, smoking in no smoking zones, and tossing food around like if the hostel staff were invisible. One incident might be a bad day, but a pattern that builds a reputation nobody wants. Recently, a cafe owner shared a video of a Chinese parent allowing their kid to poop on the floor inside the shop. Then they just bagged it, dumped it outside, and went to the toilet to clean him up. Talking about turning a coffee break into a cleanup nightmare. Meanwhile, similar stories are surfacing outside of Vietnam. Line-cutting meltdowns in Bangkok, on-the-spot public defecation in Korea's Jeju, and shop fights in Japan. That's not a Vietnam-only phenomenon. It's a global frustration that other countries are talking about openly. And when you realize this is a global situation, you start asking questions about which countries are doing something about it and what happened next. And it's not just about Vietnam sweating in the spotlight. Thailand has been dealing with this circus for years. Loud groups cutting queues at temples, littering beaches, and treating a buffet like a battleground has been at the forefront of Thai media for many years. One infamous case, a Chinese tourist was seen defecating on the floor of the Grand Palace in May 2024, while the parents just stood by unfazed. Social media exploded, causing the Thai tourism minister to call the actions highly inappropriate and demanding investigations. Protests erupted, with locals calling this an invasion, and the authorities urged better etiquette through signs and warnings. Thailand protested hard, but kept the cash flowing, balancing backlash without killing the golden goose. The pattern is clear. China tourism booms, welcoming 10 million visitors to pre-pandemic Thailand, which increases friction and turns welcome mats into warning signs. But if you want a real cautionary tale, just look north at South Korea, where bad behavior met with backlash and sparked a chain reaction nobody saw coming. Korea tried to raise the standards and reduce friction way before the THAAD blew up the charts. Public anger at rude tourists simmered for years. Loud groups, disrespect, the works. They tightened enforcement on illegal guiding. They pushed back on $0 tours, trapping tourists into a kickback shopping routes. They publicized etiquettes at popular sites and empowered the police to deal with the public disorders faster. These are normal, sensible tools. The problem is not the tools, it's the lever in China. When politics heats up with a fad, mainly to counter against North Korea, Beijing becomes uneasy and they start to act. It closes the tour spigot. You can improve the etiquette all day, but if the geopolitics heats up, then that would definitely impact your hotel occupancy. That is why Vietnam needs a balance between local dignity and economic resilience. What is Vietnam doing against those viral bad behaviors? And is it enough? You know what else is going viral? Our subscriber graph. It shows that 80% of you are not subscribed to our channel right now. That's like joining the buffet line, loading up all your food, and then taking off at the emergency exit. Hit that subscribe button, click the bell, and join our crew for exposing these stories. It costs nothing, keeps the CCP trolls fuming, and tells the algorithm, hey, I want more truth and less BS. Click now so we can tell you the stories that your hotel concierge will not. Alright, back to the showdown, Vietnam's next move. So what has Vietnam been doing to tame this tourist tempest without torpedoing the economy? Vietnam isn't asleep at the wheel. Tourist authorities in the cities of Da Nang and Nha Trang, which are two of the biggest Chinese hubs, are rolling out etiquette campaigns at the airports and the hotels in Mandarin and in English, saying, no littering, no loud noise, respect sacred places. They even produce cartoon videos in Chinese for the do's and don'ts, because sometimes a cartoon ghost glaring at a litter bug says more than a fine does. When the flag waving spectacle in Nha Trang happened, the local authorities fined the company behind it. That sent a clear signal to every tour operator: manage your guests, follow Vietnamese law, and stop pretending like you didn't know. Does this fix everything? No, but it raises the floor. It's a soft touch approach so far, but it raises a big question. What if Vietnam goes harder? The upsides and the pitfalls could reshape everything. If Vietnam ramps up against bad behavior, the pros look tempting. Visa restrictions for repeat offenders, blacklisting rude tourists from re-entry, capping Chinese arrivals with quotas, or even encouraging locals to boycott servicing disruptive groups. It would appease furious residents, restore the rule of law in crowded spaces, keep daily life undisrupted, and maintain harmony without constant clashes. Imagine quieter beaches, respected temples, and tourism scene that feels fair. National pride restored and online rage dialed down. Now, the flip side. China retaliates. First comes a warning from the embassy, then state media amplifies unsafe in Vietnam narratives. Travel agencies reprioritize other destinations. Within weeks, tour buses thin out. Beachfront shops that depend on bus drops lock their doors. Flight schedules get trimmed. Da Nang occupancy drops. Nha Trang weekdays go quiet. Tour sector workers get fewer shifts and fewer tips. If you think that sounds dramatic, ask South Korea after the THAAD incident in 2017. Ask Taiwan after 2016. The lever does not wiggle. It snaps. We're talking about billions in lost revenues, a strained ties with China, and a ripple effect on the supply chain. Done wrong, it could spark protests or a diplomatic dust-up, turning a behavior fix into a bigger mess. So how does Vietnam thread this needle? By striking a smart balance, of course. Welcoming Chinese cash for economic growth and creating jobs, while also enforcing against the worst offenses in order to prevent future flare-ups. They find companies, educated visitors, and pushing for better management without slamming the door shut. But the real play is diversification. Reduce reliance on one market by courting Europeans, Japanese, and other ASEANs through targeted ads and easier visas. And beyond tourism, Vietnam is pivoting to education, technology, manufacturing, and business hubs to build a resilient economy. That's exactly what we are doing here at our firm, helping individuals and companies relocate to Vietnam, set up factories, navigate culture, and avoiding many of the tourist traps. It's about turning potential pitfalls into opportunities. In the end, this tourist turmoil isn't just about bad behaviors. It's a mirror reflecting deeper tensions with the CCP's control games. And as incidents pile up, the question looms. Will the locals' patience snap? Or a balanced enforcement keep the peace? Drop your comments below. Should Vietnam go full crackdown or keep the soft sell? The only sustainable future is where the rules are real, respect is non-negotiable, and no one foreign market gets to hold a coastline hostage. Vietnam can do this, and the story becomes what it should have been all along. A great country that welcomes guests who act like guests. So on behalf of Duong Global, my name is Ken Yu. Thank you very much for watching this video, and I'll see you on the next one.